I wanted to catch you up on Flint. Obviously, in addition to Standing Rock, I reported from Flint, I believe, 3 times. And Flint, as I told you then, is still a crisis. It's not covered in the media that much because it's not a shiny object. Trump, for the most part, is not involved. And it's not a sexy scandal. So the media doesn't particularly care if people are being poisoned to death, if children are having brain damage, if there's political corruption involved with the water scandal. They don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is Trump involved. Can we make it a scandal? Can we fearmonger about Russia, which they're doing right now on TV? There's a big hearing going on about Russia. So Flint is still a crisis. So if you scanned news headlines this weekend, you'd see a headline, EPA awards $100 million to Flint water crisis recovery. And you would think, oh, that's pretty good. This is Trump's EPA too, or what's left of the EPA. So, because he's trying to cut it by 30%, which we've reported on. So the EPA awards $100 million to Flint, and by the headline, you'd think that's pretty good. Well, this was money that was voted on before Trump came in office. So the Democrats, the Republicans, they got together on a bill. It was originally $170 million. So the fact that it's now $100 million, that's very questionable. I already sent an email to the EPA asking why it is that it went from $170 million down to $100 million, because $70 million is a pretty big difference. So this isn't new money that's been awarded to Flint. It's basically the money that was voted on in December finally being sent through to them. So let me read you a little bit of this article. The city of Flint is getting a big bundle of cash from the federal government to help the city's recovery from its water crisis. Congress approved $100 million for Flint last year, but it took until this week for EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt to formally award it. Quote from Pruitt: "The people of Flint and all Americans deserve a more responsive federal government." This from the person who has sued the EPA dozens of times and pretty much doesn't believe in the EPA or climate change. EPA will especially focus on helping Michigan improve Flint's water infrastructure as part of our larger goal of improving America's water infrastructure. So that sounds terrific if there was actual, meat on the bone. Trump is trying to push, we're going to fix infrastructure. And one of the biggest things that needs to be fixed, Flint, East Chicago, Cleveland, Milwaukee, California, Florida. I mean, we could go on and on. There's water problems everywhere. The pipes need to be changed. The process now is they're adding orthophosphates and other, cleansers into old rusty pipes to try and decrease the amount of lead in the pipes. Well, it doesn't eliminate all lead. And by doing that, they're actually creating bacteria, which I've reported on. When you douse old pipes with orthophosphates are food for bacteria. So you're pretty much robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're eliminating one problem and creating a whole nother one. Which reminds me, after this video, after this Facebook Live, please, please, please go to youtube.com/TYTpolitics. We have part 1 of a really in-depth discussion between Erin Brockovich, the legendary environmental and consumer advocate, Scott Smith, who I've done testing with. He's a water contamination expert, and Bob Bocock, who is a environmental investigator. So that is up. It's a little long. It's about 28 minutes, but it's really good. They focus on bacteria, which is a big problem. It's not just lead, it's bacteria. So Flint Mayor Karen Weaver is grateful to finally have the money from Washington. Quote, "We are excited and very grateful to receive this much-needed funds as we prepare to start the next phase of the Fast Start pipe replacement program. These funds will give us what we need to reach our goal of replacing 6,000 pipes this year and make other needed infrastructure improvements." And then they quote Schneider. So here's the problem. Is it good that $100 million is going to the state? Yes, it is good, but there's fine print. So who is the money going through? The money isn't going directly to Flint. Here's the kicker. Instead, it will pass through the State Department of Environmental Quality. So the State Department of Environmental Quality is run by Governor Schneider. He has control of the state. Well, I interviewed Laura McIntyre today on Skype. We're going to post that later. So Laura McIntyre is a Flint resident, and she's an activist. I've interviewed her on the ground there. She's terrific and very knowledgeable. She basically said that's the equivalent of, the rapist doing the rape kit or performing the rape kit. So you're going to send the money to Governor Rick Snyder, who is frankly has been criminally negligible in the Flint water crisis in the first place. You're going to give the money to him and the Department of Environmental Quality for them to figure out what to do with it? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's unbelievable. And by the way, that's not to mention Rick Snyder has been shown for federal money that has come to Michigan in the past to pay it out to contractors and to donors who donate to him. So we're going to give Rick Snyder $100 million that desperately is needed to fix pipes and all. By the way, $100 million is not enough to fix the pipes in Flint. It's a drop in the bucket. But you're going to give $100 million to Rick Snyder and the Department of Environmental Quality because I'm sure they are going to use it very judiciously and put it in the spots that are needed. It's really unbelievable, to be honest with you, and it's outrageous. The money will help pay for upgrading Flint's water system so that it will be able to switch to the KWA pipeline. If you followed my reporting in the past, the KWA pipeline is part of the reason this whole issue started in the first place. Detroit raised its water prices, and Flint was Detroit's biggest water customer. So Flint decided, you know what, we're going to build our own water pipeline, and it's going to be a privatized water pipeline. Because these Republican governors and now President Trump, they're trying to privatize the whole damn country. So they were building the KWA pipeline, but the KWA pipeline is going to take a few years. So because Detroit's water system was increasing their prices, Flint had the genius idea to switch from Lake Huron water to the Flint River water. Flint River water is dirty as hell. All the plants dump their toxins in there, and they didn't add the anti-corrosive measures needed to go in the pipes. That's how this crisis started in the first place. And at its root was an effort to move to a privatized water pipeline. And if you move to a privatized water pipeline, there's not the same requirements for quality testing or caps on price gouging. So if Republicans don't have to have environmental quality checks or there's no price gouge, there's no price caps, they love it. They love it. Any way to screw the people. So, but what's not in this article is the majority of the $100 million that has just been granted, that's going through Snyder, is actually not going to fixing pipes. It's going to the water treatment plant. So cities, municipalities, they have water treatment plants where the water comes and is treated with certain chemicals, this and that, to make it safe to then send to the consumer. Well, as Scott Smith, the water investigator I've worked with in East Chicago, has said, the water can be, Jesus can bless the water at the water treatment plant. It can be clean as a cucumber at the water treatment plant. But if then the clean water from the plant is being distributed through old, corroding pipelines that have lead dislodging and going into the water, it doesn't matter if the water treatment plant is 100% perfectly clean. So that's why it's so critical. The first priority needs to be changing pipes in the home and the service lines. But again, the money is mostly being earmarked to upgrade the water treatment plant. It's not to say the water treatment plant doesn't need upgrading, because right now it's not serviceable. But the main issue is the service line pipes and the home pipes. And that is not going to be fixed with $100 million. Another problem is, while this is all going on, you're of course not hearing this in the media, the city of Flint is still sending water shutoff notices and in some cases eviction notices to residents who aren't paying the water bill. So if I don't want to pay a water bill for contaminated, poisonous water that I can't drink and we don't even know if it's safe to shower in, then you're going to send me a water bill. There's a lot of people who haven't paid it, and they, as I reported when I was there during the holidays, they're sending water shutoff notices and in some cases evictions notices. And a lot of residents there, not just in Flint, but East Chicago, feel that this is a subtle, tricky way to gentrify, to shut down water, to evict people, to evict enough people where you're basically driving out poor people in efforts to build up new apartment complex and frankly move in young working yuppie people who make more money. Yeah, you're right, Patrick. Here you pay this bill to die. That's really what it is. I mean, can you imagine the outrage where I am now on the Upper East Side of New York City? Pretty nice area. I mean, my block is not where the rich people live, but a couple blocks over, Park Avenue, Madison Avenue. It takes a lot of money, million dollar apartments. If there was a water issue, are you kidding me? Not only would they not have to pay water bills, they would have smart water delivered to their homes. And by the way, to update you, Governor Rick Snyder has still not followed a court mandate for home water delivery. There was a class action lawsuit against the governor and the state and demanding that they deliver water home to home because there's a large chunk of Flint. It's a poor neighborhood, low income, predominantly African American, a lot of low income white people too that don't have cars to go to the water distribution sites. So there was a lawsuit to deliver the water, and guess what? It was ruled that the governor and the state have to do that. The governor and the state appealed it. They lost on appeal. That was in December. It's now almost the end of March. They still haven't distributed the water. This is America, folks. So yes, Trump is bad, and we've got to focus on Trump. But these injustices, this corruption is happening everywhere on the local level. The media has just moved on from it because they're obsessed with Russia. They're obsessed with Trump. They're obsessed with anything that they could make a boogeyman and instill fear in their audience. Meanwhile, people are still possibly being poisoned. You know, there's been these headlines. Flint is now under the allowable limit for lead in their water. Well, as you'll see in the interview I did with Laura McIntyre later, what is the allowable limit? It's an arbitrary number, frankly, that was pushed by the lead industry. The allowable limit of lead in your drinking water is 0. That's the allowable limit. But that's not what we're hearing. And that's important.